The West Bank city of Bethlehem has remained turbulent since Donald Trump's announcement last week that he was recognising Jerusalem as Israel's capital. And more protests have erupted this Tuesday. Well, for more on this, let's cross live now to local journalist Hind Khoudry, who's in the Gaza Strip. Hello there, Hind. So can you tell us what the situation is like now?
Well, we have been on Nahal Oz East Shaja'iyya the past hour, and so far there are 3 injuries. Clashes and tensions are rising. Hundreds of protesters are coming closer to the buffer zone. So far, as I mentioned, there are 3 injuries so far. The Israelis are throwing tear gas bombs and live bullets, and it's very dangerous here. We have been inhaling tear gas bombs the last 2 hours. We can barely take a breath. Meanwhile, demonstrations are also happening all over Palestine, in Gaza Strip, West Bank and Bethlehem. Palestinians are still angry about Trump's latest decision. Palestinians are demonstrating and protesting, and we can see hundreds of protests. We can see hundreds of protesters now. The Palestinian Red Crescent just took the 3 recent injuries from the buffer zone.
Okay.
Well, that's local journalist Hind Khoudry. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Well, meanwhile, the Israeli army says it's hit back at Hamas posts in Gaza in retaliation for a rocket launched towards Israel. Locals have described what happened.
It was a strong explosion, yeah. We heard a big bang. We felt the blast. You can feel the air moving.
I think Trump was wrong this time. He made a mess. We Israelis all know that Jerusalem is our capital. We don't need him to say it.
Well, protests against Trump's decision about Jerusalem have fanned out across the globe. One of the latest was in the Chilean city of Santiago, where its Palestinian community rallied in front of the US Embassy. Well, a similar protest was seen in the Lebanese capital, Beirut, while in Tunisia, demonstrators also marched, demanding the resignation of the US ambassador. But despite the strong objections to Trump's decision, both in the Arab world and beyond, the US ambassador to the UN insists the move will bring peace to the region. RT's Caleb Morpin assesses how likely that will be.
U.S. leaders seem to believe that if you repeat something over and over again, it becomes the truth. Take a listen to Nikki Haley, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, defending Trump's recent Jerusalem move, which caused violence and chaos throughout the region.
We are living in the reality that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel.
We clearly disagree.
C'est une décision regrettable.
This is a regrettable decision.
Jerusalem is the capital of Israel.
This decision will open the gates of hell.
It's the right thing to do. It is absolutely the right thing to do. Jerusalem is the capital of Israel.
These decisions are unhelpful to the prospects for peace in the region.
The announcement has the potential to send us backwards to even darker times.
We are living in the reality that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. When both parties recognize reality, peace comes.
Repeating mantras happens to be a thing in Washington, D.C., especially when it comes to controversial foreign policy decisions. Take a listen to the no regime change, just a no-fly zone mantra that we heard regarding the Libyan intervention.
The Security Council has responded to the Libyan people's cry for help. This council's purpose is clear: to protect innocent civilians.
The task that I assigned our forces to protect the Libyan people from immediate danger, broadening our military mission to include regime change, would be a mistake.
Pretty soon, NATO cruise missiles were flying in order to back up fighters armed by Western countries. Then, eventually, the country's leader, Muammar Gaddafi, was brutally executed. Here's Hillary Clinton retelling her version of the events.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died.
And then there was that whole weapons of mass destruction routine performed at the United Nations by Colin Powell. He even brought props.
Less than a teaspoonful of dry anthrax in an envelope shut down the United States Senate in the fall of 2001. Iraq declared 8,500 liters of anthrax.
We have no ambition in Iraq except to remove a threat.
So the weapons of mass destruction weren't actually there, and now Iraq was left in shambles.
The main reason we went into Iraq at the time was we thought he had weapons of mass destruction. It turns out he didn't.
Well, Bush was forced to admit that he was wrong about Iraq, but Nikki Haley is certain there will be no retractions about Jerusalem.
It will move the peace process forward, and I'll come back and tell you I told you so.
Now, if any of that peace Nikki Haley is promising ever shows up, it's certainly going to make people across the globe quite delighted. But until then, it looks like simply saying things doesn't make them so. Caleb Maupin, RT, New York.